Today I want to talk you through how to assemble the snowball quilt block. It's a classic quilt pattern that's absolutely fantastic for using up scraps. In this case I have cut up various bits and pieces. They're all from Morris & Co. for Free Spirit Fabrics, but you can use anything. I'm starting with a 6-inch square and 2.5-inch small squares. You can change the ratio between the two a little bit, or make them bigger or even a little bit smaller. That's totally up to you. So the first step is to prepare the squares, and what I've done is drawn a line just with a regular pencil from corner to corner, and I've got just a regular quilting ruler and just mark them on the wrong side. The next step is to choose which fabric you want on top of which base square, and I do like to lay them out maybe on the bed, or if you have floor space, and if you lay out the large squares and then drop these on top, just to make sure that you haven't got similar ones touching. And then when you're happy, you can just put a pin to secure them. Once you've got them laid out, it's always really helpful if you take a photograph or a quick video of the arrangement, and that is really handy for future reference. So to then get them prepped for sewing, you want them right sides together, and the line is going like this. So the lines are going like this, and you get a little preview by flipping up this side of how it would look like, because anything past this line towards the outside will get chopped off. So once you've neatly aligned them, I like to put a pin, if I had some spare ones, either side of the line, with enough space as well so they don't get in the way of sewing. I just want to show you how I pin. It might be something that you don't really give special thought to, but a lot actually hinges on the way you pin, how precise your pattern will be in the end. And it's quite easy to actually shift the fabrics when you don't pin precisely. So in order to avoid that, I like to put the pin in vertically before turning it, and notice that I'm actually holding this and this in place, and there's absolutely no shifting. So if you do this, you can see, that you're off, and it's really easy for that to happen. So I think there's always a trade-off between, especially with a pattern like this, between wanting to achieve as much precision as is realistic and not getting anything done. You could spend a year creating the perfect quilt and not get anything else done. Or you can, just through good technique, without really slowing down, achieve better results and just take your sewing to the next level. So this would be ready for the sewing machine now, and I do like to prepare quite a few at a time so that you can chain piece. And what that means is you sew, and I don't worry about backstitching. You sew and then you put so imagine this is prepped. You put the next one under the machine without cutting the thread, and then you can just sew and sew and sew, and then do the next side and put them through. So it saves a lot of time and thread as well. So when you're at the machine, and please excuse if the filming is a little shaky, I'm holding the camera in my hand. So when you finish one line and you're about to add the next square, what you need to be careful of is that the corner is not going to ride backwards. Some machines are sort of worse doing that than others, and what does help is to sew really slowly to make sure it is gripping. And if you can see it poking up, just lift the presser foot and maybe with a another needle, with another pin, sorry, you know, you can move it down, smooth it out before you carry on sewing, and that would help give you these really nice crisp points later on. Once you've sewn all 4 lines, you need to cut with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and this is the first black line here, which I position on top of the sewing line. And do this to all 4 sides. And these little triangles that you end up with are an absolutely fabulous byproduct that you can use, and I'll show you. You can add them together, cut off the little tails, straighten it up a little bit, and this is what they look like. And you can turn them into little squares or arrange them in different ways. So you could turn them into little arrows. So they are really lovely to use up for smaller projects. You could applique them or make a little pouch or something out of them. The next step is to press the seams and open the squares out. I do like to use this felted wool mat on my table and a little travel iron, so that you don't have to get the ironing board out. So first step is to set the seams, and this is pressing the thread into the fabric, and it gives you really nice and smooth, you can see here, sewing lines. And without burning yourself while it's still warm, finger press the square up and press. And what you don't want to do is literally press it back like that, because it's going to distort and you're not going to have a really nice crisp line. And the same goes just for holding the iron, hence pressing, and not doing this like you would iron clothes. And I always make sure I go right up to the corner, because quite often it doesn't want to move as much as the rest of it does. Once you've done all 4 sides, this can get a little bit fiddly, and it's certainly the least enjoyable part, I find. But it's quite important to open the seams for this quilt block, because you can't nest the seams when you join different blocks as you can with other quilt blocks. And then you have a lot of bulk on one side, and you get a much flatter quilt top doing this. If you have a tailor's clapper, you can actually, and there are actually quilting versions that are square, absolutely brilliant. Once you've done the 4 sides, you can just pop it on top for 20 seconds or so, half a minute, while you're doing the next one. And it's setting the seams flat really beautifully. You can just set it from the other side as well if you like. So this is an example of why it's a good idea to just flip up the square at the pinning stage to get a preview of which part will be showing in case your fabrics are directional. You know, if it ends up facing the wrong way, you can rotate it or place it at a different corner and just make sure that it faces the right way in the end. When you're ready to join some squares, grab a couple of clips, and I actually prefer clips to pins, but it is up to you, and check that the corners are meeting, but also I like to just roll back the top and make sure that this seam meets that seam at the top, if that makes sense. So sometimes you may have a tiny little bit here, but this is the important part, that you match those. And then pop a clip on there to keep that seam open at the bottom as well. And then you're ready to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This is a strip that I've joined, and when you look at the back, you can see that it's the same process that you follow individually by joining. When you come to joining the rows, you press the seam and then press it open as well. And this is what it looks like, so that it's all nice and flat. So now I want to join those squares to this larger piece that I already have. Oh, it's a little bit big for the camera. So when I'm joining rows, I actually start in the middle, make sure the positioning is right, and then work my way outwards so that you can distribute any excess sort of equally wherever necessary. And then you can just carry on, build up your quilt top by adding row after row until you're happy with the size or run out of scraps. Yeah, so you should end up with a really super colourful, fun quilt top where you can put all those scraps to good use. And I hope you'll join me again soon for another sewing project. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.